Good evening. I'd like to welcome all of you to the proceedings of the Grand Rapids Public Schools Board of Education. It is Monday, March 5. I would ask you to rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Grant, will you please take the roll?
Yes. Ms. Shockey? Here. Ms. Slade?
Present.
Dr. Baker?
Here.
Dr. Flores?
Present.
Ms. Grant, present. Ms. Lewis is excused. Reverend Matias?
Present.
Mr. Ross?
Present.
And President Fogg.
Present. Do I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Support for that?
I apologize. I want to make an amendment to the agenda.
Okay.
Good. I would like to add a discussion item regarding some procedural pieces for the superintendent's evaluation.
Okay. Do I have support for that?
Support.
All in favor of the agenda with the additional discussion item for procedures on the evaluation, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. First on the agenda, we have celebrations.
Dr. Fogg and members of the board, I'd like to ask Dr. Ron Gorman and Dr. Carol Nelson to come forward. Just like that.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Superintendent Weatherall Neal, President Fogg, distinguished members of our Board of Education. Tomorrow, Grand Rapids Community College will host the 19th Annual Latino Youth Conference. Many 8th graders from the Grand Rapids Public Schools and other schools within the ISD will be in attendance. To commemorate this event, an art contest was held to recognize student artwork which focuses on Latino culture and heritage and to build excitement for higher education. I am proud to announce that all 3 winners this year are students from the Grand Rapids Public Schools.
All right.
In 3rd place was Cecily Carrillo from Southwest Community Campus. Unfortunately, she could not make it this evening. In 2nd place, we have Jaslyn Cardenas from Union High School, who is here this evening. And to help me introduce our 1st place winner is Dr. Carl Nelson, principal of Union High School. Dr. Nelson.
Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent Weatherall Neal, President Fogg, and members of the Board of Education. It is my distinct honor to introduce to you tonight the 1st place winner of the Latino Youth Conference Student Art Contest, Ms. Angeline Vasquez Lopez. To my right. Angeline's mom, Ginelli Lopez, and her family are also with us this evening, and they're in the 2nd row. Wait. So I asked our art teacher, Rebecca Smith, about the criteria and if there are any stories behind the story. She very simply told me that she saw the gift in her skills and knew Angeline had the creativity to make something truly powerful. So the criteria, again, a one-dimensional artwork reflecting the theme of the conference, The Power of Dreams. The image should be colorful and reflect something that is common to all the various Latino cultures and heritage. I'm going to allow Angeline to go ahead and say a few words about her artwork.
To create this painting, I was inspired by the theme that was assigned to me, which was the power of dream. Through this painting, I expressed my Latin culture and how important and beautiful it is. In the requirements, they asked that the legacy and heritage of Latin America be expressed through painting. The flags crossing the heart represent that we are all united through a heart, and we are all proudly carry our culture. The girl represents each person, and the way she dreams expresses the feelings that she carries in her heart.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Nice job.
So Angeline has been a 4.0 GPA student at Union High School for 2.5 years, coming from Guatemala in 2016. I can proudly say Angeline is a gift to Union High School, and she definitely holds the world in her hands.
That's awesome.
A sample of her artwork is in your
Oh, yeah.
board packet.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Shake hands with everybody. Shake hands with
Awesome.
Jaslyn, too.
It's really cool. I'm not really a good artist myself, but that's what habla un dialecto. That's crazy. And she's a 4.0, so that's from my neighborhood. Yeah. It's great.
Very nice.
Qué chévere, man. It's exciting.
All right, Josue, Mr. Centennial, sorry. What do you have for us tonight?
Earlier today, we had a meeting for the student. The student council had a meeting, thanks to Mr. Gorman, with President Falb and Superintendent O'Neill. And they shared their stories, their success stories, how they got to where they are now. And it was pretty inspiring. And then at the end, they allowed us to ask questions, any question we wanted. And it was really cool to have an answer to the questions that students have. It was really, really cool. And one last thing I wanted to throw out there, we got back from Youth in Government last Sunday. Amazing experience. It was really eye-opening. It kind of gave us a taste of what the real world is like and how people's opinions can be very different, but there's always a way to work it out. So it was an amazing experience.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Great.
Thank you.
All right. We have, do we have public comment for board agenda items, or are they?
We do not.
Okay. We'll wait till later then. No. Okay.
Do this.
Well, since we don't have, we can read it maybe before the next one, section.
Let people know that.
Go for it. So since we do have a number of public comment, we have, or sometimes we have the statement printed, but Ms. Grant, as secretary, is going to read our public comment policy.
All right, we're just going to read, I'll just read a quick statement for public comment. If there's anyone present that is interested in giving public comment, we have 2 public comment sections on our agenda. The first one is public comment on board agenda items that are located, items that are corresponding to things on the agenda. And the second opportunity is for commenting on non-agenda items. If there's a matter that you would like to speak on, you will need to just fill out a public comment card located on the table at the entry points. Please also read through our policy listed on the reverse side of the card for protocol. You can submit your card to the public safety officer or the board assistant.
Okay, thank you. Well, it's back to you. We have secretary's report.
All right, Secretary's report. Superintendent Neal announces listening tour as part of the transformation plan update. Grand Rapids Public Schools Superintendent Teresa Weatherall Neal is embarking on a listening tour for the next phase of the transformation plan. Students, parents, staff, and community members are invited to attend and provide their feedback. We have several dates and locations. The first one is Wednesday, March 14th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at Gerald R. Ford Academic Center, which is located at 851 Madison Avenue. The next one is Thursday, March 15th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at Cesar Chavez Elementary. That is located at 1205 Granville Avenue. The next one is Tuesday, March 20th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at Aberdeen, located at 928 Aberdeen Street. And the last one is Wednesday, March 21st from 6 to 7:30 at Union High School, 1800 Tremont Northwest. District employees, parents, students, volunteers, and community members who are not able to attend one of the listening tour dates are encouraged to provide their feedback and suggestions by completing the Transformation Plan Listening Tour survey that will be posted on the district's website. Lastly, we have the GRPS Human Resources Job Fair. Human Resources will be holding a job fair on Saturday, March 24th at Alger Middle School, located at 921 Alger Street, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. There will be various position opportunities to apply for. Interested individuals are asked to bring their resume with them. Human Resources will also ask individuals to register online at grps.org under the Careers tab on the Job Fair Quick Form.
Thank you. Next, we have the committee chair update. I should have caught this, Julie, but Ms. Lewis is not in town. Her son is getting married. So.
I don't know. Ms. Lewis and I did talk a little bit.
Oh, were you going to do it?
Yeah, I do have
I am so sorry. We talked about it too.
Yeah,
Mr. Ross is going to give the update. Great.
Yeah, so everyone will see a few policy 6 that are informational, and I'll just kind of start and work my way top to bottom. 2800 regarding district records. That's really just kind of clean that up and add some language to indicate an importance of efficiency in regards to record keeping. It's really nothing really robust to that, but it is obviously was in your packet for you to read. But again, it is just really add some clarification about efficiency. And 5345, staff smoking and tobacco products. That's the policy just really governing employees, really prohibiting the use of employees using tobacco products on school grounds. And 8020 and 8020R, obviously we really take action on the policy itself, not so much the R, which is the
Regulations.
Not regulations.
Rules.
Rules. Thank you. But 8020 is going to be replacing, and Sharon, please clarify if I have this inaccurate, but 8020 is going to be replacing 8025 and 8035, which were recommended for elimination, which is attendance and tardiness for high school students in particular, and absences and excuses regarding absences. Those are being 8020, the attendance and tardiness for the district as a whole. I have that right, Ms. Pitts? Thank you. Great. And 9240, that is, again, that's another alcohol and smoke-free schools piece, but that is more dealing with the general public when they are on school grounds, just having those same prohibitions as far as the general public not using alcohol or tobacco products when they're on grounds. There is an addition for a possible exception to that in the event that we are, leasing or renting a non-educational space, for example, Hausman Field. There are some community events that occur there, particularly our soccer team in town uses Hausman Field. So there's a caveat to allow for possibly beer and wine at some locations like that, depending on the event. But again, those locations are non-educational locations specifically. And then lastly, we don't have a policy number for it yet, but it is in regards to regulations to ensure that all employees are kept up to date on how to handle blood-borne pathogens. So that's pretty much the nature of the policy information we have before us. And I don't know if Dr. Fall, if you have any thoughts, maybe I missed something or anything clarified. Any questions about any of that, though? Good.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Mr. Ross. Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Fall. And so, Dr. Fall and members of the board, I would like to ask first John Himholt to come forward. Thank you.
President Fall, members of the board, Superintendent Weatherall Neal. The superintendent has asked me to just provide an update on the national school walkout plans. As you know, our superintendent has talked about how we as a district can participate in this. This is purely voluntary. The communications that are going home to parents, starting today, they get a mailing, email, as well as a printed Spanish and English version of the letter going home that has a parent opt-in. So parents will need to opt their students to participate. The intent of this is to really focus in on the opportunity for a safe and structured, well-organized event around this national school walkout. What we thought carefully about was that how do we prevent it from being just a complete free-for-all, where we really don't know who's participating, who's going in, who's coming out. And so the process has been such where we briefed with our school administrators leaders. The communications are going home with the parents. And we are really doing it on three separate fronts. Preschool will not be participating. The elementary, K-8s, and middle schools, the focus of all of this pre-K, or excuse me, K through 12 is on a theme around see it, say something, see it, say it, do something about it, and really focusing on a message around school safety and what are those preventative measures that we can do as staff, as parents, as students to be part of this national school walkout plan. So for elementary K, middle schools, the walkout will be staged inside at either a gymnasium, cafeteria, or some other designated area. We will be working with the staff on kind of those support plans, those lesson plans that can be there both before as well as during this walkout. Each school will be submitting their individual plans as to where that walkout will be staged, who is opting in and who is not going to be participating, because we are going to accommodate all students, all parents, and all staff members here either choose to participate in this walkout in a voluntary fashion or to continue the school day as planned. The high school level will be a little bit different. We've been hearing from the students the intent and desire to go outside, so what we are doing is working with our security and the school leaders to identify spots outside the building, so there'll be designated walkout spots. It's not going to just be spread out in a free-for-all. And again, we're going to work very closely with those students, parents, and staff members. Mulunge Kolumbula, who's our social studies curriculum specialist, is also working on additional lesson plan materials that are around areas like First Amendment, civil discourse, and students' rights. What are their constitutional rights? And what is our democracy? What are those fundamental issues that are aligned with the students and what they're learning as part of their ongoing curriculum to begin with, and how might these lesson plans be aligned around that? The parents must opt their child in. The form must be returned by Friday, March 9th. We will continue to communicate out with our students, parents, staff members, and community members. For those who are in the community, we've had lots of calls where they've asked, can we participate with your student? Parents have the opportunity to come join their child just like they would if they wanted to visit a classroom. When it comes to community volunteers, if we have a volunteer who is badged and has already gone through our background check, they are welcome. However, we are discouraging the general public from coming. This is, again, a safety and a security matter. If we don't know who's walking up on our property at that time, we've got to err on the side of student and staff safety first and foremost. All in all, the staff members, the school leaders have really embraced this as that learning opportunity, that teachable moment to really put a spotlight on school safety and a very basic, simple message around see it, say something, do something about it. We all can play a role in helping to stop school violence.
All right.
Dr. Falb and members of the board, I'd like to ask, actually have a team of people that are coming forward to address some of the concerns, once again, of the special education issues. So I'm going to ask Dr. Ron Gorman to come forward, along with Ken Clamperens and Tony. This really, Dr. Falb and members of the board, is in response to the concern that people have shared once again. And so we talked about, we had addressed the concerns, but apparently people still wanted more conversation. So I have people here to once again address the conversations that we've been having.
I'll begin. Superintendent Neal, Dr. Falb, and board members.
Can you put the mic closer? Thank you.
Is that better?
A little bit.
Oh. Is that better? Okay. Is it on? Okay. Special education programs and services continue to shift as we remain open in our response to legislative changes and seeing our metrics improve. We've been able to collaboratively devise innovative approaches to meet the ever-changing, diverse, and complex needs of our community of students with learning differences. There have been many changes in legislation to which we had to adjust, and tonight I just want to emphasize two of them. The federal regulations of 2006, as a result of the reauthorization of IDEA in 2004, were all about inclusion, access, and accountability. It was a paradigm shift and a call to action. There was a new focus on evidence-based practices leading to a results-based era. Compliance took a back seat to results, and the expectation for students to be educated beside their general education peers became the priority. To encourage the shift for GRPS, we introduced a change of practice from categorical programming to programming based on student level of need. This has been introduced as resource level 1, level 2, and level 3 options with programming. The shared thinking and vision for this shift was able to enable students to get the support and services needed while not excluding them from learning opportunities and experiences with their general education peers, and maintaining options for some of the following. Students being independent across the school environment, being scheduled for specials and electives with general education peers, delivery of services in either the general or special education setting, provisions of low, moderate, or high level of support for success in the general education curriculum, receiving of instruction in the general education setting across curriculum to advance participation and performance in the general education, being on track to receive a diploma, and possibly utilizing a personal curriculum. Keeping students in front of rigorous instruction with general education peers is the right work, and that's the work that's being done. It's the goal that we must hold for all students, and we must keep graduation for students receiving special education programs and services within our vision. Another legislative change that took place on July 22nd, 2014, President Obama signed into law the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which we refer to as WIOA. This law was the driving force requiring that we revamp programming for our 18 to 26-year-old students participating in post-secondary programming at Kent Vocational Options on Lincoln campus. Though the focus of instruction had always been within the transition domains of daily living, employment, and community participation, a large part of a student's experience at KVO was participating in the paid piecework provided through a now prohibited contract with Hope Network. This provided the opportunity to expand community transition campus programming to 7 community sites for the 2017-2018 school year, and those sites include Mayfield, Strait, First Place, North Kent, Eberhard, Cook Center for the Arts, and Mary Free Bed. Community-based sites provide for better accessibility to the community, flexibility in learning and discovery spaces, and high-quality instruction in the 4 domains of transition. And those are some of the reasons why there was a shift from programming on the Lincoln campus for Kent Vocational Options, because it just does not provide the level of access that students receiving transition level programming, post-secondary programming require. The shifts in programming have resulted in doing a better job at getting more students to graduation through having an educational experience in front of rigorous instruction with their general education peers to the extent possible, and providing a quality instructional program for students needing to acquire skills to access and utilize community resources as independently as possible.
And Dr. Faub, I've asked Ken to address some of the concerns around the Strait building, and so I just want you to know what we've done already for that building.
So when the decision was made to move to straight, the facilities department worked with the special ed department to come up with what needed to be done to make the building accommodate those students' needs. We came up with a 3-year plan. Due to the timing, year 1 was primarily done by GRPS staff, our maintenance and operational staff. The things that we did were we addressed the lights. The main room was changed to LED, and the classrooms are retrofitted with LED lights. Carpet in the Native American classroom was replaced. The rest were extracted. Painting, walls were painted, and there's exposed ductwork that was completely stripped and then repainted. Weatherproofing of exterior doors, we replaced clocks. Restrooms, we adapted the classroom restrooms by taking out the partitions as the program requested to make it easier to function with the students who needed assistance. We verified fixture counts that they meet code, and in fact we exceed anything at either the KVO or the Mayfield buildings with number of fixtures. We installed and repaired handrails. We added shelves where they had changing tables and needed some special items. We reorganized the office to accommodate both the special education and the Native American program simultaneously. We also verified that we have occupancy in the building. It has been a continuously occupied building since the mid-70s. Occupancy comes up whenever you have a project. You either make it vacant or have a project that requires a permit, and that will come up again with our year 2 projects this summer. After moving in, there were several requests. One was for dividers in the large classrooms. At that point, all our dividers were committed to the city move, and we offered to build dividers. The administration responded to us to wait till we had, to see if we had dividers after city, which we did, and they were all installed by the 1st of February. The other question that came up was the quality of the water. We are on city water, but we tested again for lead and copper, and both came back non-detectable. So that was our program through the early fall. For year 2 and 3, we have hired an architect. We are looking at the flooring replacement for the remainder of the building, both carpet and tile work, casework replacement, door hardware, complete restroom renovations to meet the latest ADA and the program needs, roof replacement, window replacement, masonry repairs, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning control replacement, and technology upgrades.
Okay. And so to piggyback off of Ms. Moore's remarks about improving metrics for students with disabilities, as I'm sure you are aware, over the last 6 years, the Grand Rapids Public Schools has increased its graduation rates every single year for 6 years. We've increased our rates by 22 percentage points, which is an increase of over 50%. And over a similar period of time for our students with disabilities, we have increased our graduation rates by approximately 10 percentage points. And this number continues to get better as we look at 5-year numbers and 6-year numbers. So although we may have a small tick up for 4-year graduates, if you look at our graduates who are students with disabilities over a 6-year period of time, it is pretty significant growth and almost mirrors the state's 4-year average, although it's taking our students about 6 years, our students with disabilities, 6 years to graduate. Although we are proud of the work we have done to create more opportunities for our students with disabilities, we understand that we have a lot of work still to do. In order to ensure that more students with disabilities graduate in 4 years, not 5 years, not 6 years, or not at all with a high school diploma, we have to make sure that educators, specifically educators, who are general education professionals who are serving students with disabilities, have the professional development, the instructional resources, and the supports from the administration to help more students graduate in 4 years. We will continue to provide supports that will ultimately help more students become successful.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I really wanted you to know, Dr. Faub and members of the board, the transformation plan includes children with IEPs. And part of the move of what we've been doing is to ensure that all of the children in the Grand Rapids Public Schools can meet the necessary requirements in order to graduate. Many of our students with IEPs were on not necessarily the track to receive a high school diploma. We continue to align the programs so that children can get their high school diploma and not just a certificate. Certificates are for students that may need that, but most of our children can get a high school diploma, and that's what the moves we've been making to just align those. And it isn't resource rooms, it's resource programs. It's a different language. Since 2004, we have been behind the 8 ball in bringing GRPS up to the standards of everyone else across the state. We actually are one of the last districts to make those changes. And it is extremely important that we move as a system in order to bring the district not only into compliance, but do what's right by children. And that includes having these students be a part of our transformation plan.
Thank you. Questions from the board for Ms. Moore, Mr. Klumperens, or Dr. Gorman? Mr. Baker.
Yeah,
Dr. Baker.
Ms. Moore, we've talked some about the inclusion already, and then the reason that we're late shifting to that model. It does seem like there's been a lot of community concern over the changes that you discussed in these 2 legislative items. Is this similar to what's happened in other places, or are there particular what's the challenge with the transition that we're making right now?
Certainly not unique to GRPS. The need to be thoughtful and creative around how to address instructional programming for students with IEPs, and that becoming or growing more and more challenging as you address needs that are more pervasive and more significant. However, as far as the matters being pervasive across our state and even across our nation, it makes it so that it's not unique to Grand Rapids Public Schools. Post-secondary programming is something that is unique in Grand Rapids Public Schools, in that we operate center-based programming, and that's primarily where that programming takes place. So to meet the needs of those students and to ensure quality instruction that doesn't look like a repeat of a K-12 experience, but truly is rooted and based within the transition domains. It requires access to the community. It requires having a different approach than just classroom instruction, but truly meeting the individualized needs that a student has developed through their post-secondary vision.
Can you just remind me, I know there were 2 pieces of legislation that kind of got this ball rolling. The second one I know was 2014 regarding WHEEL. What was the first again, though, please?
The federal regulations of 2006, which was the result of the reauthorization of IDEA in 2004.
IDEA.
Individuals with Disabilities Education Act.
Gotcha.
Other questions?
Are there how many center-based, how many school districts in the state do center-based programs, or ballpark? School districts in the state that do center-based programs like we do here, ballpark?
Well, not school districts. Most center-based programming is run through an ISD.
ISD, okay, right. Okay.
We're different and unique in that it's through a school district.
Okay.
And of course, we service the whole county.
Now, one other question for me. You, took some notes, but as you were unpacking things, toward the end, when you talked about 3 different areas that it was sort of a results sort of type of conversation. You mentioned 3 things: a better job of something, and unfortunately I didn't catch it. But then right after that, you mentioned about the rigorous curriculum. And the note that I took, and I think Dr. Gorman somewhat alluded to it, the note that I took, those 3 things you mentioned, and we may have to unpack it offline, but I was going to ask about measurables associated with those 3 things, because those seem to be sort of a crux of, sort of evidence that things are going in the right direction. And then obviously Dr. Gorman chimed in with the graduation rates, but do you happen to know what I'm talking about to recap those 3 things you mentioned?
Yep, I talked about keeping students in front of rigorous instruction.
Yeah.
To the extent possible, and quality instructional programming for students to acquire skills to access and utilize community resources. Some of what would be aligned to making those things occur certainly would be around the whole evaluation process and aligning students' needs to programming, would certainly be around the resources made available to the students and to staff, as well as staff training in order to implement specialized instruction.
I guess what I was fishing for, and I don't necessarily need it right now, like I said, and we can definitely talk later, because I don't know if me articulating the question I have is really effective, but I know what I'm trying to get to is an example of an answer is, again, Dr. Gorman's reference to the 10% gain in graduation rates. And again, in your presentation, you mentioned 3 different things that, and again, there was the rigorous instruction, the quality, but in my mind, as you unpacked it, I asked myself if there was some evidence of, measuring to provide support to those statements. But again, I may just have to ask you later, because
We certainly, some evidence for that would certainly be around what programming is developed for students with IEPs, certainly would be around their progress assessment scores and where they are in relation with their general education peers, their level of engagement in the curriculum. And of course, we like to see students engaged 80% of their day within the general education setting. So those would be some of the things we would look at to provide evidence of the occurrence.
Thank you.
Banker?
Yeah, just one more. This is because I can't go too deep with these questions since I'm not familiar with the territory. But in general, it seems like there's a real disconnect between groups in the system, and so I just wanted to get a sense of what are our efforts to kind of bring groups together, because to get to the same page is what I care about, because I can't really assess this legislation. So I know that we're trying to get to that place.
I don't know if I understand your question.
Well, I'm trying what's most concerning is that there seems to be people at odds with the way we're providing services, and so how do we bring people together to get us to where, at least, I'm not suggesting that we all have to agree on the direction things are going, but at least to get to a place where we respect that we're doing the right thing.
One of the things that we've done, and Tony can absolutely go deeper, is we have involved the community, the ISD included, because many of these students belong to other districts. We have involved people in the process, and because over the past 6 years, we've talked about special ed, we've done things to move along, we've slowed it down so people could get on board, but at the end of the day, we had to do what is right by children, and that includes working with people in this community and others in other districts in order to continue to move and do what is best for the outcome for students. Now, are we going to all be happy about it? No. Would some people like for us to go slower? Yes. Would some people like for us to go faster? Absolutely. We continue to work with people to come together to do what is right for students.
Any other questions?
So I guess I do want to just unpack Tony's question just to see if I'm interpreting it the way you intended. It sounds like you're not at all necessarily saying there's something good or bad occurring with how things are going, but just that there seems to be a possibility for a disconnect. And I think we all have enough perspective to understand when you have disconnect between folks who apply or boots on the ground, so to speak, and then we're the I don't know, for lack of a better word, but I don't know, administrative faculty perspective, and I definitely use that for lack of a better phrase, but if there's a disconnect between decision making on the administrative level and implementation on the boots on the ground level, then it can cause stagnation, and obviously no one's going to get the results that we all want. Is that sort of?
Yeah, basically, I mean, what we'll have to take actions to get to the same page. And so what are those actions going to be? So.
And I understand that. So we have met with superintendents, the other superintendents across the county. There are many, many different committees, and we have worked with, I think this is our third attorney to help us to get to that point. And we will continue to do that as well.
As well as there's been numerous meetings held over the time that Laura Lamore has been executive director, meetings held with staff to address the concerns that plague us, to look at what some possibilities have been for change, as well as meetings held with parents to address where things stand with the changes that we have been thrust into, whether it be from legislative changes or the transformation plan, or just looking at data to say, where do we stand, our graduation data? How can we ensure that if you are a student within Grand Rapids Public Schools with an IEP, that it is not an automatic sentence that you are not going to graduate with a diploma. So there have been there's been a lot of open conversations about that, like Superintendent Neal said, at the ISD level, with staff, with parents, to ensure that everyone is aware and is getting the information that they need.
And Dr. Baker, we do have communication of the meetings. We have notes. We have signatures. I've shared with the board in board reports. I've shared the attorneys, the reviews with you guys. So I've kept people along the way. We have it scheduled at a work session to give an update on where we are. But absolutely, we've been very open to share any of the information. And we do have sign-in sheets for the meetings as well.
Dr. Flores?
Thanks. Yeah, I first of all respect and applaud the efforts that we've made in special ed and in the district and moving forward. But I'm always curious from a transparency view of the data and how we report it, and recognize that 10% is significant in terms of moving the barometer forward, or the needle forward. But if we look at the state in terms of its performance, what is the lag? And not looking at the 5-year or 6-year span, but annually.
That's right.
Because if we're outcomes centered, and if our programs are working as they should work for all children, then it is an annual analysis that we make. It is, where are we today in comparison to our neighbors, in comparison to our state, and in comparison to our nation?
Great question.
Whether they're special ed kids, minority kids, whatever.
Great question.
Where are we?
Dr. Gorman?
Yeah, so one thing that I would like to report on is, although we've had a pretty significant, I'll use that term loosely, we've had a jump from 10 percentage points. The biggest jump was actually the last couple of years, where we've gone from where we actually had the greatest jump over the last 2-year period of time, where of those 10 percentage points, we're talking about 7 percentage points over that period of time. So the last couple of years. In how we connect, or how we relate, or how we compare to other districts nationally, I think one thing that makes us different is that we have center-based programs in our school district. So I'm not trying to dance around the topic. I want to be fully transparent. But we have a graduation rate in the school district that is close to 70%, okay? We also have, I would say, 70 students in our school district who are on certificate tracks, okay, or certificate pathways, who do not count toward our graduation rates, who essentially count as dropouts. So until we have programs that are comparable to ours, right? Then we can compare apples to apples. If we want to show how well our students with disabilities are doing compared to other students with disabilities, we can absolutely pull those data for you. But I think one thing that makes us different is we serve all of the students with disabilities in our county. And 70 students in this district every single year affect our graduation rates. The state average for graduation rates is about 80%. If you take 70 students out of that count, or if you grant 70 students diplomas, we are close to the state's average. And we're not looking at a graduation rate that's 67%. We're looking at one that's closer to 80%. So we're different, Dr. Flores, than others, but I will gladly pull those data for you and show you how our students with disabilities are compared to other students with disabilities.
And I understand the explanations and the special considerations and conditions that exist between comparing the apples and apples or apples and oranges. I just think that we, in a forward-thinking move, ought to present data as it is presented generally, and that let the chips lay where they lay. Let the explanations be supplemental. But I really think that going forward, our district needs to say, this is where we are, this is where we compare, this is the gap that exists, and if there's a 20% gap in our comparison of our performance with the state average, then let's zero in on that. Maybe it takes more resources, more strategy. Maybe it takes more meetings with the groups that are at odds with how we approach these matters to improve our educational delivery systems. But be that which it may, we need to be more reflective of what the state averages are in educating special ed populations, special populations in general.
I do have a thought to that. I do think, to some extent, I agree, Dr. Flores. However, I do think the way we tell the stories of Grand Rapids Public Schools is pretty important. And we do know we're well beyond the age where the average media reader or listener is really critical. And I am concerned that if we simply just speak in those broad terms, that the nuances won't be captured by the general public, by families, and et cetera, et cetera. So as it sits right now, I do think it's important to kind of tell that story in a way that we know is more reflective of the reality when you control for these special populations, if you would. So I guess I would have some concern about us just blanketly putting rates out without the explanation, because I'm just not confident that people will take the effort to grab that. But I do have just a clarification. The 70 students you spoke to, is that sort of annually from what would be a graduating class, or is that 70 students within our high schools?
These are students in center-based programs who are working towards certificates. Okay. Unfortunately, the state of Michigan looks at certificate-bound students as non-graduates, so therefore they affect our overall graduation rate.
It's not that 70 particularly would be part of a graduating class of a particular year, but just we roughly have 70 annually that would be working towards certificates, and they could complete that at any time this year, the following year, whatever the case.
And Superintendent Neal talked about students with significant cognitive impairments, students who are not working toward diplomas. There are approximately 70 students in our system who are not working toward diplomas who count against our graduation rates. So if we want to put our data out there that we have a graduation rate that's sub 70%, I think it is advantageous to us from a school district's perspective to say, okay, but we are different because we serve 70 students who are working towards certificates and not diplomas.
And if I can just jump in here, we are in conversation with the ISD so that the data for students that do not reside within the Grand Rapids proper, their information will go back to their home districts, or the program will go back to their home districts. So that it doesn't affect Grand Rapids Public Schools. We have petitioned the state so that we don't own the data. Currently, we do. And so part of the outcome of this audit that we are going to do will determine whether or not children go back to their home districts. And we keep our GRPS students.
And I understand that. That's a systemic issue, and I support that, Superintendent. And what I was suggesting with respect to special populations, it could apply to Hispanics.
Anybody.
You know,
Black
Hispanics.
children.
Well, we have
Absolutely.
so many that have just arrived. They were undereducated in their native countries. Some from Guatemala, some from Mexico. Some, you know, on and on.
Right, Jose.
But the standard. Let's
It should be
deal with
the standard.
Deal with the data, whatever it is.
Absolutely, we absolutely agree.
And then yes, I support. You know, you can make the explanations and whatnot, but it is, I don't know. Just
that's what this is across the state. Children with IEPs are graduating at a much higher rate than they are in the Grand Rapids Public Schools, closer to 70%. And here we were at 17%. We are ticking that up. That's exactly what we're trying to do. Right. That's why we continue to align programs. That's why they're a part of the transformation plan, because many of these children can graduate with a high school diploma. And that's what we're moving to.
Dr. Baker?
No, I was just going to say, I mean, that's the data in relationship to this conversation that I'm interested in, is that how do we measure what's happening with special ed kids, those that are moving towards graduation, the 70 or so kids that that are not on that are on the certificate track, and then the center-based kids who wouldn't be at either, right?
That's right.
You know, and I guess my last comment on this would be going back to that sort of I don't want to use the word divide, but that sort of schism that we may have. I would argue that if our data does indicate that the decisions we're making now are the right decisions, I would just, I guess, encourage us to ensure that, you know, everyone across the district is aware of that, because at the end of the day, that's where we can more definitively, you know, state that.
Story.
Say again?
Share the story.
Yeah, I just, I think that, you know, like to use a sports analogy, winning cures everything. You know, you have dissension. If folks realize that you're moving towards accomplishing what our collective goals, regardless of whether or not the philosophy is the same, generally speaking, you know, that, so, yeah.
Any other questions for these guys? No.
Thank you.
We have several action items on tonight's agenda. The first is the purchasing agenda. Do I have a motion for approval of the purchasing agenda?
So moved.
Support.
Any deliberations, concerns regarding that? Ms. Grant, if you could take the vote.
Ms. Shockey?
Yes.
Ms. Slade?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Reverend Matias?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
And President Faub?
Yes. We have a donation from the Ellis Foundation for City High Middle. Do I have a motion for acceptance of that donation? So moved.
Support.
Any discussion, concerns? When you're ready, please take the vote.
Mrs. Shockey?
Yes.
Ms. Slade?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Reverend Matias?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
President Faub?
Yes. Next, we are seeking approval for the Pine Street purchase agreement. Do I have a motion for approval? So moved. Support. Any discussion?
Yeah, could we
concerns?
get an update on what this is referring to? Since we
Yeah,
didn't
I
have the
mean,
Finance
I
Committee meeting.
followed it because I tracked what was in the finance, but I think it's significant enough. It'd be great for the board to.
Ken, parents will come forward.
Should have gotten that before I called for the motion, but.
That's okay.
Previously, the board received an option agreement. It's technically through the Kent County Land Bank, but it will be acted on by the dwelling place to turn the Pine Street property into an affordable housing project. There was an option agreement that was approved by the board. They applied for LIHTC funding. They need an extension, so it was actually a second option extension. This is to simply convert that option, which has been previously approved, into a purchase agreement.
Great. There's no questions, then take the vote.
All right. Ms. Shockey?
Yes.
Ms. Slade?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Reverend Matias?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
And President Faub?
Yes. Excited about that one. That's awesome. Great project. Next on the agenda, we have first reading of Policy 2400. Mr. Ross kind of gave us an overview. Does anyone have questions regarding that before I call for? Do I have a motion for approval of the first reading of Policy 2400?
Motion to approve.
Support for that? Support. Please take the vote.
Ms. Shockey?
Yes.
Ms. Slade?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Reverend Matias?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
And President Faub.
Yes. Do I have a motion for approval of the first reading of Policy 2800?
So moved.
Support for that?
Support.
Any concerns, corrections, deliberations? Please take the vote.
Ms. Shockey?
Yes.
Ms. Slade?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Reverend Matias?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
And President Faub.
Yes. Next, we have Policy 5345, first reading. Motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Any concerns, corrections? Go ahead.
Ms. Shockey?
Yes.
Ms. Slade?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Reverend Matias?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
President Faub.
Yes. Next, we have first reading of Policy 8020, attendance and tardiness. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Ms. Shockey?
Yes.
Ms. Slade?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Reverend Matias?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
And President Faub.
Yes. Next, we have Policy 5342, Blood-Borne Pathogens, acceptance of first reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Support.
Ms. Shockey?
Yes.
Ms. Slade?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Reverend Matias?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
And President Faub.
Yes. Next, we have the changes made to Policy 9240. Do I have a motion for approval of the first reading?
So moved.
Support.
All right. Ms. Shockey?
Yes.
Ms. Slade?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Reverend Matias?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
President Faub.
Yes. Next, we need approval to eliminate Policy 8025. Do I have a motion for approval of removing that policy?
Motion to remove that policy.
Support.
Ms. Shockey?
Yes.
Ms. Slade?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Reverend Matias?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
President Faub.
Yes. And finally, I'm seeking a motion for the elimination of Policy 8035.
Motion to eliminate policy 8035.
Support.
Ms. Shockey?
Yes.
Ms. Slade?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Reverend Matias?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
President Faub.
Yes. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda grouping. Do I have motion for approval?
So
Motion.
moved.
Support.
Ms. Shockey?
Yes.
Ms. Slade?
Yes.
Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Dr. Flores?
Yes.
Ms. Grant, yes. Reverend Matias?
Yes.
Mr. Ross?
Yes.
President Faub.
Yes. Next, we have the discussion item regarding procedure and protocol for the superintendent evaluation, which is next Monday.
Yes, thank you. So obviously in preparation of this, I've shared a few communications with the board in general, but particularly I just wanted to raise something that in preparation for that I noticed that we did not solidify, and that element is in regards to the our need to develop consensus for our final evaluation recommendation. And in our process that we're using, the School Advance tool that our district administrators use at the building level and at the central office level as well. There is a criteria that if there is not consensus, and I'll send you the document that references this. There is a document, the School Advanced Consensus Rating Process Instruction, that I'll share with you guys. But I just want to put it out there that before we actually move into our deliberations and our closed session next week, we will have to conclude if there is issue about reaching consensus, whether we default to the highest level of agreement or if we take an average of all of our individual perspectives for that particular characteristic. And again, I'll send that to you tonight just so you have the actual language. But it is my recommendation that we do simply default to the highest level of agreement, simply because from a time perspective, we are under a small crunch, and with that, recognizing that we'll be moving into another evaluation time frame pretty much immediately following this. And if we decide that something should be different for that next evaluation period, then by all means we can change that at that point. But I just put it out there now because we'll have to conclude this prior to going into closed session next week. And again, I'll send the language so you know clearly what the issue is, but it comes down to, if we have an issue with consensus, would it be a default to the highest level of agreement, or would it be an average of all of our 9 perspectives? So that's one. Any questions or comments about that, though? So that's one. The second piece is that obviously the board itself was really interested in getting an update regarding special ed. And thank you to Superintendent and the administration for providing some of that today. But we also had scheduled some additional conversation next week. And really, I would ask that maybe we defer that conversation until after the evaluation piece is completed, simply because it seems potentially to be a bit much for one night. And obviously, So are you requesting that the superintendent evaluation occur first on the agenda, or that the update on the audit occur at a different meeting? The latter, that it occur at a different meeting, for a couple of reasons. One, although that is something that we all obviously have some interest in and are paying attention to, the process that we have agreed to doesn't clearly indicate that is I guess I'm just concerned with it being a difficult piece with us adhering to the process that we have. And I think that from a time perspective, in order to really give both of those really important subjects the time that they deserve, I don't want us to frankly, try to do too much all at once. We know the board has, if nothing else, one clear job, and that's to evaluate the superintendent. And that is probably the clearest job that we have, and I just want to make sure that we give that job the attention that it deserves.
I guess I would also add to that there's significant activity occurring in Lansing right now, so we're also going to get a fairly robust update on legislative, so it is a very full agenda. So I guess I'm agreeing with where you're coming from, but I guess I would like to hear from other members of the board regarding that.
Agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I do want to have significant time for the special ed discussion, and we're doing essentially 2 superintendent evaluations this year. So,
So I think one of the options that we need to discuss is whether we have a work session prior to the next board meeting here, or whether we schedule one at the end of the month, or whether we wait till April.
That would be my question for when we are going to move that discussion to. When is the next opportunity to have that?
What is the feeling about moving it to prior to the next full board meeting, which is the 19th? We used to do it all the time in the old days, guys.
I will be absent from that board meeting, just as an FYI.
So I would move that either we do add a work session prior to the board meeting on the 19th, or I don't know, the 26th is we have a special work session, but So, yeah, I do think sooner than
But
later.
we're also going to need to make sure that like Mr. Butler and folks that will be presenting are available, and,
So it's
you know,
probably-
appropriate administration.
Can we shoot for the 19th? And then if that
Yeah, I
doesn't
would say
work-
prior to the board meeting on the 19th. If Mr. Butler isn't available, though, then will we opt for a
26th.
It was either to the 26th or the 9th.
Yeah.
Further than the 9th, avoid it.
Yeah. 26 is not ideal for me, but.
So I feel like let's get the availability of the team and make a decision. I would like to keep it as soon as possible, though. I don't want to push it out to the 9th or past.
Okay, well, let's check on availability for the next board meeting and plan on the legislative update and the superintendent evaluation being the agenda items for Monday.
Thank you.
All right, public comment. Yes. So. Okay. Yeah, why don't we start with that? So.
Okay. We do have a significant amount of comment tonight. Most of them are focused on special education. We do have one comment that is focused on the student walkout for March 14th. So we will start with that one comment and then address special education. So I'd like to invite our Wanda Ezel down. So for public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. You will need to state your full name before providing the comment. We will then start the timer at the beginning of your public comment time and provide you with a 1-minute notice by flagging a red card indicating that 1 minute remains. You will need to complete your comment time upon being notified that the 3 minutes have passed. Board members do not respond to public comment. Concerns will be brought to the attention of the appropriate staff. We value your input and thank you for sharing with us.
Yes, good evening. My name is Sarwanda Ezel, and I'd like to say hello to the board and Ms. Weatherall Neal and everyone that is here. I would just like to say I am a taxpayer in Grand Rapids. I live in Grand Rapids, and I pay property taxes, and I'm on a fixed income. And I would like the best education that can be provided for the Grand Rapids public school children. And I do not agree with the walkout that is scheduled. I just don't think it's appropriate, and I think it's a waste of the taxpayer dollar. I think that if children want to protest about the murders that have happened on public school property and in the college just recently, my heart goes out to the family and the children that had to experience those awful murders. But I just think there should be another way, rather than disrupting the entire school day, to let them demonstrate. And also, I think that it's just a waste of time. And my idea is I don't think it's a good idea for teachers to be armed in classrooms. I think it's an accident waiting to happen. And that there are other ways to provide security, such as metal detectors and having trained security, maybe plain clothes, in the schools. And so I'd like to say one thing also that is missing from the public schools, which is the 10 Commandments, which is Exodus 20:13, which says, "Thou shalt not commit murder." So, you know, I wonder if some of those school kids even know that they're doing the wrong thing by killing someone and taking their lives. And so, unfortunately, the Bible is not allowed in schools as prevalent as it used to be. And so I think that there would be something for them to learn if the 10 Commandments were presented somewhere for these children and young people to understand. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to do like 3 at a time, 4, since there's 4 chairs?
Okay. So we are going to invite 4 individuals down at a time, and we will proceed. The first person that I will call down is Lily Schulting. Next, Martha Cooper. Natalie Desmarius. I apologize ahead of time if I mispronounce anything. And Ryan Jeanette.
Go ahead, Ms. Schulting, if you're ready.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. So, well, hello, President Falb, Superintendent Neal, and members of the board. I am Lily Schulting, and as the founder of the Disability A Team, I am here with many parents and supporters. Whilst many scores of parents have shared their stories and experiences with the Michigan Education Association, or the MEA, in oral or written testimony, only a few of the parents are currently available to come here to share their stories with GRPS tonight. Therefore, tonight's personal stories will represent only a small portion of the vast number of difficult experiences which students with disabilities have faced at Grand Rapids Public Schools in recent years, and especially in this most recent year. Now, my message tonight, and gift actually, to you, is to let you know that you are at a crossroads. So please think deep and hard about the number 847. And you may not know this, but that 847 is the number of special education teachers and staff at Grand Rapids Public Schools who signed the hard copy of the MEA petition. That's what I like to call the paper petition. No parents signed the hard copy as far as I know. Only we mainly signed the online copy because that's what we parents do. But even with the smallest margin of error, 847 represents an extremely high number. Just think about it, 847 special education teachers and staff. That's all you need to know. You don't need to dance around all those other issues. But so yeah, this is the overwhelming majority. I mean, how many special education staff and teachers do you think there are there? So yeah, 847 is the majority, and who signed this petition. And what they're saying is they know what's going on, regardless of what it says. They know what's going on. This is a vote of no confidence. A vote of no confidence by 847 means that that is the staff morale. The staff morale is extremely low for a reason. And we parents and students, we just care about the teachers and the staff. We care about their morale because they are the ones who are taking care, they love our kids and they take care of them, most of them. And they take care of our kids who have emotional and developmental and physical and other disabilities.
Ms. Schulting, your time is up.
Okay, let me just finish really quick. Okay, so therefore, you know, this is the crossroads, so you just have to decide whether this is how you want to run special education at Grand Rapids Public Schools, or can you show that you care and you care and show some respect for the vast number of hardworking and loving teachers and staff in special education who love our kids.
Thanks, Ms. Schulting. Ms. Cooper?
So I believe this is on. I came here today as a parent. I would just share with you that I became familiar with Lily in some activism I was doing in the community around other issues. But I was a parent of a special needs child back in the 90s. when there was no funding, there was only the mandate. And what I became familiar with was confidentiality was used to protect the system, not the child. I became very used to teachers whispering to me, "Don't tell them I told you this," because I didn't have money to go buy an advocate, and I certainly had no experience myself in advocacy for my child. So when I met Lily and she was trying to organize parents, I thought, this is so much what I needed. I have found out from her sharing with me and from seeing what hit the media, I also understand that you were admitting that there were problems, but you said they were being taken care of. And yet, I would too like to say that the reason I'm here tonight is to stand with parents. You say that you want parents to be involved in the school system, and yet when parents come in, you've got an IEPC, they hardly know how to make it. You stack the room with a whole bunch of professionals, and then you tell them that, well, I'm sorry, we just don't have that funding for that special need that your child needs. Well, and I would say, well, sure you do. You're just paying all of these people. You're not putting it on the kids. I want to stand with the teachers especially, because those teachers were what got me and my child through. I also want to say, just in case, you ought to really get a clock up here, because there's something really important I want to say, and that is that if you push a special ed need child to the side and you make them a second-class citizen within your school, they have a harder time to catch up, to repair the damage of not having their needs met, to repair the dignity of not having their needs met. Do not push them out. When you push them out, you push them into a prison. When you push them out, you push them into the mental health care system. I have a 4-year-old son who is hurt still to this day. Do not dismiss parents that are organizing together to take on a school system that has historically not met these children's needs. Do not dismiss 840 teachers who stand up for those children when the school system won't. I think my time is
I would respectfully ask everybody in attendance, for the respect out of people who are making public comment and the body in the meeting, to not respond, not make audible comments or clap. Let's keep the decorum here and have respect for people speaking. Thank you. Ms. I did not get your name.
Damaris.
Damaris. Thank you.
Well, I'm Natalie Damaris, President and members of the board, and I'm a parent of 2 AS. Testing. Is it not on?
Okay. And we didn't start your time either, so you haven't lost a minute. So.
Okay, I can start over. Okay. I'm a parent of 2 ASD kids. They're 4 and 5, Hadley and Benjamin, and Ben was diagnosed high functioning and Hadley was diagnosed as severe, and she's still nonverbal. Both children have received a medical and a school diagnosis and have IEPs. Hadley, upon the school diagnosis, they decided to bus her out of district to Kennesaw Van Auken School. When I asked why she would be bused so far, we were told it was because there were so few resources for ASD children. There were only certain sites, and so she had to be bused there. A few months later, we were notified that Kennesaw would close and Hadley would be sent to another school, which was a little bit farther. I'm a little bit concerned because there was no meeting to ask for this, and I felt like that wasn't very transparent. I felt like they made a decision and they just went forward with it, and they didn't have any kind of a public anything so that parents could sit down and we could talk about this. I'm also disturbed because this was an entire building that was, or an entire section of the building for the ASD children that was closed, and we already had few resources. And so we were lacking building space. I had talked to a school social worker who said, well, I don't even know where they're going to put the children in the new schools because we were already kind of crunched. I feel like, I guess I'm here today just to do anything to discourage this kind of behavior. the point of special education is to level the playing field for children. So most children, they go to kindergarten, first grade, and they're up here, and special needs kids are down here. That's why we have to give them extra resources. We have to give them everything that they need so that they can be able to compete and ultimately succeed. And it's just disturbing when I see parents, and I just see this fight between school boards and parents and superintendents and principals and teachers. We've been blessed with really good teachers, but when I see this fight going on, I would really like to see it. I would really like to see more of the schools coming to parents and saying, hey, I think that you should have your child evaluated, have our school psychologist evaluate your child for autism. But that hasn't been my experience. My experience has been that I had to get on the phone with the head of special the head of special education was at Kennesaw, and had to, argue with them and explain why Hadley, my nonverbal child, why she, needs an ASD evaluation. And they said, oh, well, that label's going to follow him for life. And it's just this, it's just, I guess I'm just kind of disheartened. But that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Ginelli? Jeanette.
It sounds French, but it is not. Hello?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay. My greetings. My name is Ryan Jeanette. Thank you for having me, Dr. Fobb, Ms. Neal, and the board. I come speaking to you as a friend of special education and also a graduate of little-known school within the system known as Beckwith Adult Education. I received my high school diploma late in life because I decided that helping out my mom was more important than my own education. I also come speaking to you as a child of special education. I've been in special education since I was 10 years old, and I am 28 years old now, and I know I don't look like it. I get 19 all the time. It's not fair to me.
Hang on to that.
No, I don't want to hang on to that. I would prefer to grow a beard, but unfortunately it grows in terrible. I wish I could grow one like Mr. Ross there.
He didn't start shaving until he's 40, though.
But I've seen special education when it shines. I was a part of a program in Wyoming known as the Genesis program. It was a now closed school named, I cannot remember the school's name for the life of me. I haven't been there since 2003, but it was ran by two teachers named Tiffany Huff and Steve Bilski. That was the first time any special ed program to me actually shined. They gave a lot of individual attention, and it seemed like this program was well funded. I didn't know anything about the funding back then, but they showed me what special education, if done correctly, can do for the students here. Now, we have 847 people, and I'm one of those people because I was one of the first ones to sign the original hard copies. Oh, it wasn't? Oh. Darn. 847 people not only got down and agreed that there was a singular problem and that there's a problem with the special education, how it's run in GRPS, but they also gave a name to that problem, which was Lemoore. And the lack of leadership I've seen in GRPS over the last 2 weeks alone is both fascinating and disturbing to me at the same time. There needs to be a solution to this problem, and we need to find what that solution is. We need to start listening to people, basically.
Thank you, Mr. Jeanette. Your time is up.
May I say one final quote? A wise man named Fred Rogers once said that there are 3 keys to success. First is to be kind, the second is to be kind, and the third is to be kind.
Thank you.
Mr. Rogers helped out a lot of people in a lot of special education throughout the entire United States. More people need to stand up like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
4 more names.
Next, I will call Dawn Marie Jenkins, Shantae Paul Oliver, Jane Johnson, and Jack Prince.
Do you want to do the minute thing for them? Or? Okay. I don't know if you want to do it on the phone. Oh, when I
start with Dawn.
Okay, Ms. Jenkins. Okay, sorry.
Hi, my name is Dawn Jenkins, and I come, members of the board, to not only support the teachers, but I'm a parent of a special needs child. My frustration, number one, was when they did the transfer from Mayfield to Strait. I still, for the life of me, can't understand why you would move kids that have been established in a community where they had worked in the community, where they were comfortable with the community. The teachers were established in that community, and you move them over to a foreign land, I'd call it, because that's what Strait is. That school was on property that, when you went past it before they moved in, looked like desert land. I mean, nobody was even functioning in this place. But when I went in there with my daughter in the classroom, that's when it really appalled me. There were 2 classes running in one room. One were lower level kids and some were higher level kids. And it was appalling how these kids could concentrate and be able to learn was beyond me. I sat in the classroom and watched how it was ran. And it had nothing to do with the teachers. It was just the way the room was set up. They were told that there would be changes made, and that, you know, I haven't been there for a while because my daughter went to the Project Search program, which has been a wonderful program. But I asked when we went to the meeting to change from Strait to that program if it was going to be a program that she could attend till she was 26. And I was told yes. That's why I chose to have her in that program. And the first meeting I went to, I asked the question again, and they proceeded to tell me no. She attends this for a year, and then we help her fill out an application, and she gets a job, and then she's out of the school system. She's only 22, so I don't feel she's ready. So she's going to be going back to a CTC program. But I feel that the teachers that we have at Strait School are productive teachers that should be trusted, heard, and cherished. Because if we lose these kind of teachers that love our children and want to take care of them and put forth an effort that is over and beyond being a teacher. They're their friends. They want to help these kids. And if we lose those teachers, you're going to be badly hit to find some that can do the jobs that they do.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. We have Jane Johnson.
Hello, my name is Jane Johnson. I have 4 biological children that are special needs, and I'm going to be marrying a man who has 2 children of special needs. So I have been doing this a long time. My oldest is 30 years old, and my youngest is 16. So I have been working with GRPS for a long time. It has been a long road, and the past 4 years have been excruciating for my family. They have not met the needs of my children. Zachary, who is what you would call comorbid, because not only does he have physical needs, he has mental health needs as well. So he is a very tough case to deal with. He has been moved from AI, EI, CI, LI, you name it, he's had it. And perfectly so, because he would fit all of those categories. But instead of placing him in a program that would best meet his needs and putting the services into the program to best meet his needs, they stuck him in a service program that would meet the number needs of whatever, how many AS kids you had, how many EI kids you had. And so my son wasn't always placed in the best program. He's had some phenomenal teachers, and he's had some awful teachers. He's had some great parapros, and he's had some bad parapros. Currently, he's in Mayfield. He has not attended school in 6 weeks in Mayfield. He got agitated. They didn't follow his behavior plan. I called the school and asked if his ABA therapist could come to the school so we could put together a comprehensive behavior plan. And I was told they were not allowed to come. They were not allowed to come to observe him. They were not allowed to come to my meeting. They were not allowed to attend the school whatsoever due to confidentiality, which is a bunch of crap. It's the first time in my life I have not had supportive services come to my son's meetings. He has had comprehensive wraparound services since he has been 8 years old. I work with a lot of parents from the PAC community, which is the Parent Advocacy Council for the Kansas County Systems of Change, and our severe emotionally disturbed challenging children are your 70, okay? It's those kids that won't get a diploma, all right? And what happens to them is they go to a program and then they get opt-out because they get a job, a part-time job, and then they have no services. The transitional plans from kids services to adult services might as well be called a childhood cliff, because that's what you get, nada. I went from speech to physical therapy to occupational therapy. When he turned 18 years old, nothing. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And it's just not Zachary. I have 6 children.
Ms. Johnson, my apology, but your time is up.
I wish I could say more.
Okay, thank you.
But you guys really need to rethink about what these Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 programs are for, because my son is more than just a statistic. And the 70 who won't graduate, he's a person. And he has an opportunity to have a quality of life that you guys can't dictate.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Oliver.
Hello, my name is Mrs. Oliver. I was just here at your last gathering like this, and nothing was done. I felt like I was betrayed by GRPS. My daughter had a concussion. She is 4 years old. The bus driver still has his job. My daughter has seizures now due to the bus injury, and she has to wear a special helmet that was made for her due to the negligence of GRPS hiring Dean Transportation to pick up my child. I also have a daughter that just turned 7. She is autistic. My daughter has not been in GRPS school since last year of May. My daughter sits at home every single day needing services, but due to the fact that Miss Weather O'Neill is never available to speak, due to the fact that Laura Lamore plays games on the phone, due to the fact that I'm being told that someone will get with you, someone will contact you. Unfortunately, you decided not to bring her. My daughter deserves an education just like the rest of these children, and there's no reason why she should be sitting at home instead of being in school. I should not have to keep coming here to speak to a board that's not acknowledging nor trying to communicate as far as what's going on with my specially autistic daughter. I shouldn't have to be coming out in public speaking to the news and getting other parents involved with a child that is clearly in need of an IEP. She can't go back to any regular ASD class without the help of GRPS. Tried to get her in a different district and was told by the superintendent of Kentwood as well as Rockford, unfortunately, due to the fact that you had the issue with Miss Weather O'Neill, we cannot accept your child. So my daughter is not in school. Talk to CPS about it. They don't want to get involved because of a GRPS thing. So I would just like to know, what am I supposed to do with this 7-year-old little girl who is classified as autistic through education and medical at this point? While y'all have y'all educations and your jobs and your families you go home to, this little girl is left in the background. And it's unacceptable, it's not right, and something must be done. I just don't understand, why is it that parents have to keep hearing from you guys that there's lies going on, or whenever we try to voice something or say something, people have to whisper and sneak around. I'm not going to do it anymore. This is 2018 and a change will occur. So I will not rest. Y'all will see me again. Y'all gonna keep hearing about me. I don't care if I have to go to news out of town, wherever I have to go to get my daughter's face out there to show the negligence that has been brought by GRPS to my daughter. This is a 7-year-old little girl who is speech impaired, who is incontinent, that was assaulted on the playground at GRPS school, on camera, by the way, and it was put out on the news. GRPS has not done nothing about it. Not only did they allow the teacher to keep her job, they allowed her to transfer to a different school and tried to make me put my daughter back in the same school that she was assaulted at, which makes absolutely no sense at all. So I just wanted to be known. Y'all gonna see Miss Oliver again, and y'all gonna keep hearing about me, whether y'all like it or not.
Thank you, Ms. Oliver. Mr. Prince, it's been a while.
Yes, good to see you. And I want to thank the board for allowing these parents to speak. Their voices are the preeminent voice in this room, exceeding those of administrators, exceeding those of teachers. I have nowhere near the position or leverage that they have as the loving parents of these children. I would allow, if I could, just the passion and the empirical grievance in the last parent's voice to just wave through the room. I would have also liked every member of the board and the people behind me to have sat at the press conference on Lejeune Street last week, where a list of 50 similar grievances and egregious issues were raised very succinctly by a reader who got to number 22 out of 55 and broke down into tears. Broke down into tears that weren't dramatic, they weren't there for emphasis, they weren't there for the press's sake. They were a human reaction to issues and travesties that have taken place within the halls of GRPS that moved me, that moved everybody in that room. There was a call that came in that called that list of grievances and the portrayal of those grievances as a smear campaign. A smear campaign trying to denounce the very gravitas that was in that woman's voice. A gravitas of seriousness, of concern for the welfare, safety, and education of the most needy, the special needs children. You know, we listened to a long list of detail and minutia up here, some of which was very statistically interesting. The list that I'm referring to, I wish we had the time to go through that point by point by point, to take the hours to look at those, because that's really the core of what's going on. We have lines drawn here. We have on one side those that are trying to protect the students, and on the other side of that line we have those trying to protect the image and the appointment of this school. I was a football coach in 2002. My day ended or began at 4 o'clock at Grand Valley State. So I came to this school as a substitute. I have an English journalism background. I was placed in an autism room. That's why I'm here, only on my experience. I was placed in an autism room knowing nothing about autism with 10 students. Promised to get help, promised to get support, never got them. I taught a half a year, 10 autistic students, and I was a literature teacher and a linebackers coach. I would ask you, is that the propensity? Has that gotten better? Has that gotten worse? Those kinds of examples, that's what we should be looking at tonight. I'm going to just finish with this. 847. Let's summarize, let's boil it all down to 847. Are you saying my time is up?
It is up, so summarize quickly.
847 speaks for itself.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Prince. More names?
Next, I will call Kathy Thompson, Marianne Dykema, Mary Jo Thompson, and Robert Van Kirk.
Ms. Thompson? Mrs. Thompson?
Or you?
No. Go for it. Yes.
I don't need a mic, honey. I've got 8 boys. I'm a foster mom, 200 kids, 75% of them special ed. I have had kids in every single school in GRPS but one, Aberdeen. I have dealt with this problem with special ed with my last child. I think Dr. Neal was aware of the danger my child was in. He hit, kicked, the police were called to Coit 3 times a week based on his behavior. Laura Lamore and a party of stuff, we had 9 IEP meetings inside of 4 months. She was very adamant that my child had to stay at Coit. He was not quite material. He needed to be either at Lincoln or KCO. He was totally violent. The principal would run from him. He would lock himself in the office when he saw Rob coming. This is just a bad thing. I mean, we had doctor slips, social workers, everything from his doctor, why he needed this. She didn't want us to play a nurse at school. My son has Loving-Gestalt syndrome with flame. Those are seizures that he can die from. He can die. That's the fact. I mean, when I took him into care, I knew the backstory. I need a nurse at school. And she said, no, we have a care aide. I'm like, no, that's not legal. And I don't know why I have to fight for my child to get what he wants. And I do a lot of fighting as a foster mom for stuff my kids need because they didn't get it passed. And I just kind of resent I have to fight for stuff all the time for what these kids need. I go to endless meetings. John Hempel was at one of the meetings saying, hey, what can we do? I spoke to you twice inside of a 6-month period. And you don't answer, you don't do anything. But the thing says that we will communicate with staff and we'll get back to you. I never heard a thing. I never heard a thing. It's really disrespectful to my kids. My kids have been through hell already. They don't need to be disrespected in the schools. They don't need to be places where they don't need to be. I also have a high-functioning kid who was with really low-functioning kids. It did him no good. For 6 months, we fought to have him moved. He didn't gain a thing in 6 months, and he needs that because they only have him for a short period of time. And they need to just go. They need to make gains in what they do. And I have to say, our teachers are awesome. I have kids that go to Lincoln. I have kids that go to Lincoln Developmental. The teachers are awesome. But I've been a foster parent for 30 years. I see less and less and less. You know, where we had 3 A's in this classroom, now we're down to 2. And I understand it's hard to hire these people. I get it. Well, then sponsor the aides to go to college. They already have the experience of being in this classroom. They're there because they love it. Give them a scholarship program. Help them become what we need. Because we don't have it in the schools. It doesn't seem like it would be that hard. Grand Valley or somewhere that would just say, okay, look, we'll give you these spots. And just get it done for our kids. You know, because our teachers really, really need it. I don't know. When you guys are all talking about this stuff from all the other schools, I'm amazed the smoke alarms went off because there was so smoke trying to be blowing up us. It was. We need to get, I understand that you're protecting Laura. I protect my kids, but when I get them home, I'm going to say, listen, Charlotte.
Ms. Thompson, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Dykema?
Hi, my name is Marianne Dykema, and I've been a speech pathologist with GRPS since 2003. I signed the petition for Ms. Lamore's removal, and I want to clearly state that I was neither bullied nor coerced into doing so. Indeed, it took great courage for myself and my colleagues to sign. I am not a liar, and neither are my 846 co-workers who signed the petition.
Please, I ask that you refrain from...
We are adults fully able to adjust to changes, but who can no longer tolerate poor decisions and disrespect. When I joined GRPS in 2003, Special education was a cohesive team of professionals and supervisors dedicated to servicing students with special needs. We were a family unit who celebrated and mourned together. Students with special needs were happy and thriving. Parents were satisfied, and staff felt valued and fulfilled. Under Ms. Lamore's supervision, I have seen a huge exodus of our most respected team members. The loss of their level of experience and expertise is a tragedy that can never be rectified. We get new hires to replace them, but I've stopped even bothering to learn their names because the turnover is so high. Our special education team is broken. Our family system, developed first and foremost to helping children with special needs, is broken. Under Ms. Lamore, the focus has switched from best practices for servicing children to how to bill the most Medicaid, compliance with paperwork, and saving district money. Special ed staff begged the board back in 2016. I myself wrote a 4 or 5 page letter to help special education by removing Ms. Lamore. We are broken. We are demoralized. We are unable to help the very children we have devoted our careers to serving. Please, please listen to us this time. Please listen for the sake of the children. Thank you.
Mr. Van Kirk?
Yes.
Got it. Right.
So my name is Robert Van Kirk. I come to you tonight to plead with you like these speakers before me have pled with you, and the speakers after me will plead with you. You joined the school board to represent the students, to fight and work for the students of the school district, and I commend you for doing that. But there is a gap in services here, and it's very clear. And although the students being targeted by these actions are the least able to respond to these actions, the community around them has stepped forward to be their voice before you tonight. You have the ability to investigate these claims. You have the ability to go to the schools where they have 21 and 22-year-old students using bathrooms designed for kindergartners. You have the ability to go into those schools and to view them for yourself. You have the ability to go in to a classroom that's overcrowded, servicing these students with disabilities. You have the ability to see all this for yourself. Don't just rely on statements that you hear tonight. Don't just rely on paperwork that you've read. Investigate for yourself. That is why you're in this position. That's why our communities have entrusted you to serve on the school board, is because they trust for you to investigate. They trust for you to represent. They trust for you to stand for those who cannot stand for themselves. And I just would encourage you to do that tonight, and don't just listen, act. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll call Louis Doshane. Sorry if I have that incorrect. Laura Figueroa, Christina Donaldson, and Carmencita Perdomo.
Ms. Perdomo?
Hi.
Hi, all right.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, I want you to hear me loud and clear. I've been emailing the board since January 11th. My son is Julio Perdomo. For those of you who responded, thank you, God. But the ones that didn't, listen up. I'm his mom. He's a real person. Julio is 11 years old. He has absolutely no courage to come in here and stand and sit before all of you guys and say what's going on. My son is autistic. He has ADD. He has sensory processing issues and anxiety. You guys talk about confidentiality, but guess what? All of us have to come here and tell you why we're here, and it's because our kids have special ed needs. Breaking confidentiality, the whole world knows. We're on news, what, 13? Now everybody knows what's up with my son. Okay, when I went over there and I told them what was wrong with my son, I was told there was nothing for him at that school. Nothing. How? With the millions of dollars that we approve for this district to do things the right way, and Ms. O'Neill, you're ahead of it, so you're the one I'm mostly directing this to. Where's the money going? Because I see the museum school got up and going really quick. They even have a new building. But hey, what about the kids that were already here? What about my son that's been there since kindergarten in GRPS and now has a problem and no one's helping him? I had to pull him out of school. After therapists and occupational therapists that I pay for out of my money, by the way, I'm a therapist. I am a master's level therapist. All I did was work with kids in a public school. If anyone was able to keep their child, their special needs child, in a school, it should have been me. I knew the resources. I knew who to talk to. I knew what to do with him at home. I paid a lot of money so that my kid could be in school every single day, and that school failed him. Why? Because there was nothing. ASD is not a new disorder. Disabilities in general are not new disorders. If GRPS does not know what to do with these things, then hey, look around you. There's other people that know what to do, and it's working. I think I heard this wrong. I hope I heard this wrong. 17% of IEP students were graduating? I hope I heard that wrong. Because if that is not a violation of these kids' rights and education, I have no idea what is. I mean, does it have to be a 0? Does it have to be a 0? My kid has been sitting at home since February. I had to quit my job. I have to sit here and figure out online schooling, homeschooling, because nobody knows what to do with him. I'm paying taxes. Why do I, as a therapist, have to figure out how to become an educator? I shouldn't have to do this. I should not have to do this. And when I begged for a meeting with Larry Johnson, yeah, that was me. I was the one emailing all day long. That was me. He met with me maybe 4 weeks later, you know, after 15 kids attacked my son, and I had to call the police because he was different. 2 times he tried to walk out of that meeting. The 3rd time, I called him a choice word, to which he responded in kind. What a professional, guys. Here's a parent who's at her wit's end. I've quit my job. My son's threatening suicide. He's not in school. And I'm just looking for some answers, and this man, he can't even take me being just a little upset.
Perdomo, your time is up.
My time is up. But there will be more meetings like this. And I hope you guys direct the money that's coming to you, to the kids who are already here, and not in trying to attract kids from other districts and from other populations of people that have more money than us.
Thank you, Ms. Perdomo.
Because this is not fair.
Thank you.
It's not fair.
Ms. Donaldson?
Good evening. Christina Donaldson, and I am here before you once again, here advocating on behalf of parents, students, and staff. I had notes, and I guess my mind is all boggled listening to all of the different stories, but I just want to come here just to say that I am in full support of the petition that has been presented to you guys. I hope you guys have all taken the time and opportunity to read it and to hear all of the concerns that are being presented here tonight that have previously been presented over the years, including myself. I, too, had a son in GRPS, and we were not receiving the services that we needed. My son's needs were also not being met, along with many other students in the classroom that I was here advocating on behalf for, along with my child. So we are currently at a new district, and my son is exceeding and doing phenomenal. And so the things that I was fighting for with this district, and you said 80%, you're pushing for 80% of inclusion to have the kids in general education classrooms. Well, if that is true, it may be true as of the last week or so, because I fought for 2 years to have my son in a general ed classroom, and I got pushed back numerous times. I knew the capabilities of my child. As his mother, I am very involved in the schools. I know the teachers, I know the staff, and So for someone like myself that is an advocate, that goes in the schools, that has a relationship and rapport with staff and other students and parents, and have a difficulty getting the services that I need, that my son needs, if someone like myself that has all of the experience and the boldness to be able to advocate for her child, I only can feel for those parents and the many other families that do not have the strong voice that I have, that are not getting their needs met, that are not able to properly advocate for their child when they are in an IEP meeting, that staff is speaking in language that parents are not understanding, and not allowing for not allowing our kids to thrive and putting them in thriving environments. You said that you value the things that we say, but if you value them, then you would take these things to heart. There's been numerous times that parents have come here on behalf of special education, and now you guys, because of this petition, are making it an issue and putting it on your agenda to say that you looked at it and talked about it. But it's something more that needs to be done. It needs to be something more than a meeting. It needs to be something more than having a conversation. There does need to be action taken. As Mr. Prince stated, he was put in front of a classroom of students that he was not prepared or equipped to serve, and that has happened numerous times, including with my son. That has happened as well.
Ms. Donaldson, your time's up.
So just please keep those things in mind. And I just want to remind you of the meeting that we had in 2017 with Laura Lamore, where numerous of the board had asked her questions and got the runaround, the same things that we as parents get. And you guys were equally as frustrated, because I was there present at that meeting as well. And you did not get any answers.
Thank you, Ms. Donaldson.
So look into that, please.
Ms. Figueroa? Figueroa.
My name is Laura Figueroa, and I am the mother of a little girl who is in 4th grade at CA Frost. My daughter is dyslexic as well as ADD and attentive type. We utilized School of Choice for her to attend Frost because of the outdoor learning benefits. She absolutely loves it. However, since 2016, we have been fighting to get her the IEP she so desperately needs, only for her to be denied most recently last month, despite every box that should have qualified her being checked off. It is obviously easy to shout from the sidelines that our current education system is, to put it mildly, seriously flawed. But I want to make it clear that I have no quarrel with and mean no disrespect for the many individual, passionate, dedicated members of the education realm. It is not these individuals my antagonism is targeting. It is the system they are bound to work in which piques my discontent. Those of us who are speaking out aren't outliers or disgruntled complainers. Our stories should show you a pattern. Special education advocates have been trying to call attention to that pattern for years. The system seems to have ignored or dismissed them. Laura Lamore and other GRPS managers are skirting and possibly breaking state and federal special education laws through what they do and what they fail to do. That violates your ethical and moral obligations to the children that you serve who need special education services. That would also mean that hardworking teachers are being pressured to act as unwilling accomplices, all at the expense of children, families, and taxpayers. GRPS is mismanaging our district's special education services department, and system-wide problems require system-wide solutions. Here's what I think we should do as a start. First, the Board of Education should set up a safe way for people to come forward so we can really understand the scope of the problems we face. Whistleblowers clearly fear school system retaliation. We need to know why. It's time to start listening to not just parents, but the teachers as well. Second, the Board of Education should undertake an independent audit of GRPS's special education department. How many of the district's 4,000 individual education plans are legal and valid? How many special education students are actually receiving services as legally required? If there isn't a systemic problem, then a full and publicly transparent audit will show that. We are challenging each of you board members to see past the bureaucratic double talk. Improve the effectiveness of public education. Invest in all of our children's tomorrows. Once is chance, twice is coincidence, 3 or more times is a pattern. You need to thank each and every one of us, the parents and teachers that are speaking out for our students and other families, and the best way for you to do that is to act.
Thank you, Ms. Figueroa. Deshane?
Yeah.
Mr. Deshane.
Hello, my name is Louis Deshane. I'm a bus operator at the Rapid. I'm a member of Amalgamated Transit Union, HEU. There's parents here that helped me in my labor dispute with the Rapid. And so I just was brought up to speed today on some of these grievances, and they're quite disgusting. I'm just here to say that ATU will stand in solidarity with these parents, teachers unions, and to help them with what they need. I'm not a man of many words. I'm a man of action. I mean, you can ask Mayor Bliss how her Labor Day went.
I would please ask respect and decorum for this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. That was respectful to me. I appreciate that laugh. Sometimes I try to be funny too. Makes me feel good. But yeah, we're going to stand in solidarity with everyone. So whatever they need, obviously these parents and teachers, they know what unions are capable of doing. You're going to see a revitalization of unions in this town. At one point, Grand Rapids was the union town in the nation, and we're going to make it again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I will call up Lisa Polzen, Sulari White, and Brenda Byrons.
Do we have Ms. Polzen?
Yes, I don't know that this is live.
I think it is.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I think it is.
Thank you very much. All of you who are here because you care, and we are too. I'm going to read this to you. I work for Ken O'Shea. I'm a GRPS employee. I'm also a GREA member, and I have a passion for children. Grand Rapids Public Schools has a variety of innovative special education services offered to students. In fact, GRPS and Kent County has historically provided special education services even prior to some of the federal mandates. Ken O'Shea is one of those innovative programs. It is 52 years old. It's a beacon of success. The building administrator and all staff are a dedicated group. Let me give you a little background. Ken O'Shea is an early intervention program for families and their children who are birth to 3 years old. When a family or a medical professional or service agency has concerns about a child, a referral may be made to Ken O'Shea. The program is composed of skilled professionals who complete evaluations and assessments for the child to determine the child's developmental needs and if he or she might qualify for special education services. Within the building, staff can access a variety of diagnostic equipment to get a better picture of each child's individual need. The Kenosha staff also collaborate with the medical community and other agencies. As a team, we combine our professional skills to determine specific developmental concerns. We work together to provide early intervention for the smallest and youngest children and their families. This is provided during weekly home visits and group visits. My story involves a newly assigned 2-year-old student who was on my caseload. He presented with atypical developmental concerns and behaviors. Unfortunately, it was our current director of special education who mandated that our program no longer had access to a vital piece of equipment which would have allowed earlier determination. The good news is, despite the mandate, one brave individual made a decision to proceed with an evaluation using this equipment. Later, the results of the completed diagnostic and the collaboration with the medical community, it was determined that this child had a very special disability. The child continues to receive special education intervention and is thriving. I am here to tell you this today because this child did not have a voice to tell us. When we have access to the equipment, the professionals available to do the assessment, and professional concern, why would the assessment be denied? It was. Thank you.
Thank you. Solari White.
Hi, my name is Solari White. I came here today to talk about Strait School. My son was moved from the St. Mary's amazing community-based programs to Strait. But several other parents have talked about Strait and invited the board to come to Strait and see where our children are. And I too want to join those parents and ask you to visit Strait and see where our children are being educated. So I'm not going to push the issue of Strait. What I do want to address is the wording that was used by Dr. O'Neill today about our children and the graduation rates and how having non-district children impact GRPS. As a mother of a child with special needs who will not get a high school diploma but receive a certificate, and from out of the district, those statements made me feel like my child was yesterday's garbage. So now he doesn't meet your numbers. You are now ready to send him back to where he came from. If those kinds of words were used for any other group of children, it would not be acceptable, right? It's not acceptable to make that kind of reference to my child. And it felt, whether you intended or not, Dr. O'Neill, it felt like a threat. That if we stand up here and we cause some issues, that our children will be sent back to the districts for where they came. Our children come with resources, right? They come with funding to the district. So when it was convenient, you opened your arms and welcomed them. And now it's not convenient, and there's talk of sending them back. It's just not acceptable.
Okay, thank you. Ms. White. Ms. Schulte? Ms. Schulte? Ms. Schulte? It's distracting to people speaking here, so you might want to speak out there.
I'm talking to the reporter.
Right,
Okay.
so you might want to speak out there so we can hear people presenting. Thank you. Brenda Behrens, is that right? Okay, thank you, Ms. Behrens.
Well, I'm sure that you're all not very happy to see me again, but here I am. I spoke to you all a year ago about some of my concerns, and I'm back. This time, I came back with a large group of people to prove to you that it's not just me who has concerns. My son started at Grand Rapids Public in 2003. Lisa was his first teacher. I wrote something to read to you, and I've chosen not to read it because some of the statements that have been made here tonight made me change course. My son will not get a diploma. He is not in the city of Grand Rapids anymore. He's been at Grand Rapids his entire school life, but we live in Wyoming. Dr. Neal's statements also were offensive. My son has friends. He's blossomed at Grand Rapids, and the reason why we stay, quite honestly, in fact, last week I was asked from a reporter why we stay, and it's because of the staff. It's because of the teachers. It's because my son has blossomed and grown, and that's why we stay. And I'm not leaving this district without a fight, whether my son gets a diploma or not. He's now a junior in high school. He's going to graduate or get his cert from Grand Rapids, and I won't be pushed out because he doesn't meet the diplomas. He doesn't meet a diploma. One thing that I heard you speak about is transparency. I heard you speak of providing information for the board and things, but what you're missing is you're not being transparent with the parents. My son's federal document and IEP was changed without my knowledge. His programming was changed from a MiSci or a mild cognitively impaired program to a resource program. Nobody told me, nobody asked me how I felt, nobody told me why this was happening, nobody discussed it with any of the parents in this program. It was simply changed. Every student's IEP was changed without parents' knowledge. That is unacceptable, and it's against the law. Nobody cares about my son's education more than me. So when I hear that we are a smear campaign, that's hurtful. When I hear on TV the superintendent of Grand Rapids Public say nobody wants better for our children's education than the district, no, nobody wants better for my son's education than me. That's why I'm here. And that's why all these people are here.
Thank you, Ms. Behrens.
Yeah.
Next, we'll have Janice Rich and Melissa Cortade.
Ms. Rich?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you, all of you. My first time speaking out because I just never did out of professionalism, and I'm a teacher myself, so I'm always like, I don't want to cross those lines. And also out of respect of the staff that's currently working with my son. At GRPS's recommendation, my 10-year-old son currently attends Kennedy Elementary as a 4th grader in the EI program. He does not have an EI eligibility. He has otherwise health impairment. The EI program was deemed the best fit due to a small class size and severe learning disabilities that result in academic anxiety and outbursts. My son is currently in stage 5 chronic kidney disease, which is renal failure, and he is awaiting a transplant and dialysis. However, that's contingent on meeting behavior goals. My son did not have behavior issues until 3rd grade, middle of 3rd grade. He had an outburst because of his reading disability, and he was placed in a CPI hold where a school security officer dangled handcuffs in front of him and said that they're going to take him where they don't see his mom and dad anymore unless he stops. Nothing was ever done. I reported it. He just said, no, I didn't say that. Okay. So anyway, he's got to meet his behavior goals, but also he has a complete agenesis of the corpus callosum. He was born without a corpus callosum. ADHD, he has recently diagnosed with destructive mood dysregulation disorder, and recently medical autism diagnosis. We were transferred to Kennesaw this past October after a lack of communication, planning, and service at Harrison Park Elementary, where my son was suspended on his first day of school and suspended indefinitely when he returned, as well as physically assaulted a second time by school security. I have photos on my phone if you want to see them. Bruises, hair pulled out of the back of his head. He was put in a tiny room right across the street, right across the hallway from the main office. Again, he just said, oh, no, I didn't do that. I requested video and it was denied. So they transferred him to Kennesaw, where I was told that strong understanding of children with special needs. So the classroom teacher and principal continue to understand my son's needs. However, the classroom environment has been consistently hostile, violent, aggressive, and out of control. These safety concerns are too great of risk to my son's health for him to continue at Kennesaw. Since returning to school after break in January, my son's behavior has become increasingly violent and aggressive. In every correspondence with staff, it is expressed that my son is reacting to the environment. The classroom is in constant crises. Either a child is taunting him, calling him the N-word, calling him an MFer the second he walks into that classroom, and he's expected to sit at his desk and do his work when he's getting called an MFer and the N-word.
Ms. Rich, your time is up. Do you want to make a... We only have one...
That's fine. She can have my time. I'll walk away. She can have my 3 minutes.
But that's not how it works. I'm sorry. We have 3 minutes per speaker.
It's okay.
So you can make a concluding comment if you want, Ms. Rich.
He's currently on homebound care. He has not had a single violent outburst in the 2 weeks he's been on homebound care.
Thank you, Ms. Rich.
So it is possible with the right support. Teachers have expressed at that school that they request help, and they're told no by support staff and parapros.
Thank you, Ms. Rich.
Okay.
Ms. Corte.
Hi. Again, I came here about a year ago as a, I just left Kanawha Hills Public Schools as a board member for 6 years, imploring you to do something about special education. And I'm not in the district. I live in Walker. I don't have children in the district. My son does online school. He has a special needs student, but he does online school. And my daughter's in Kanawha Hills. So the reason I'm here is because I care about these students. That's the only reason I'm here. I don't know Laura Lamore. I don't know you. I don't know most of you. I think we went to Washington, D.C. together. I mean, I know some of you. But it's really sad to see in a year what's happened. I was thinking back there, it only took me about 4 hours of my life to go to a meeting. Again, I don't live in this district, but to go to a meeting and hear some promises that were made to parents about a school, a straight school. I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but I believe it's straight. Some remodeling that was going to be done and stuff like that. It only took me about 4 hours to then of my time to go to another meeting to hear some parents talk about some situations that happened at a Mayfield school where a student was drug on the floor and another student was called a bitch or something like that. I'm sorry about the language. But and then it only took me a little longer to come here tonight and talk to you. It doesn't take a lot of time. It just takes for you to care about children. And just go and visit those schools. I went and visited Straight School because of what I heard about the school. I don't have kids there. I have kids that will never go there probably, but I care. And so I went to that school, and I just implore you to go there and see the school for yourself and for your own eyes. And it broke my heart to hear the stories that I heard from parents at a meeting about what was happening to their children. I will come here time and again and just stand up for these kids, but as a board member, just please do the right thing. I know it's difficult. I understand. I was there. For 6 years, I was on a board with a special needs student, and I had to fight my own board at times. It was really awkward. But just do the right thing for these kids. That's all I ask, and I'll just keep coming and asking you to do the right thing. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all we have for public comments? All right. Superintendent comments?
No comment, Dr. Clark.
Mr. Ross?
No comment.
Dr. Baker?
No comment.
Dr. Flores?
Torn between no comment and comment, I guess. I guess I'd like to say that, you know, we are a dedicated group of individuals and that we take things seriously. And, you know, we are here to serve. So it was very, very interesting this evening. Thank you.
Ms. Shaki?
Just simply that I appreciate the dialogue and the conversation tonight around special education, and just thank you to all who contributed, families and staff, and everyone who's giving us perspective. Thank you.
Reverend Matias?
Yeah, likewise. Appreciate the parents coming out. It's hard to hear.
Ms. Lang?
I would echo that. It's very difficult. I spent 33 years in special ed, so it's very painful.
Ms. Grant?
No comment.
Meeting adjourned.